Hello, and welcome to the second week along your pathway to success. Last week, we talked about the important things in your life and where each of them was on your hierarchy of priorities or values. You were able, perhaps for the first time, to consider how you filled your personal space, what you spent your money on, where you were most disciplined and reliable, the things that inspire you above all else, what you spend your time on, what you think about the most, what you talk about the most, and where you are most organized. These are all great pointers to establishing what to you is most important in your life. Then your attention was directed to what you really want, a question that very few people stop to consider properly. You've had chance since then to think about that a little harder. Today, we're going to be talking about defining your desired outcome and think about how you might work towards that. Most people, when asked what they want to achieve, start to trot out a list of the things they don't want. That's not likely to motivate you, because you can't help dwelling on all those things you don't want, rather than those that you do want. If I say to you, don't think about buying a red car, what's the first thing that comes into your head? A red car. You see, in order not to think about a red car, you have first to imagine it. How often have you heard it said by a parent to a child, don't touch that, only for the child to do precisely that? The child's mind immediately processes touching that, and that is what she does. So the first thing to decide is what specifically you want. Imagine it. See yourself through your own eyes, doing what it is you want to do and being successful. When you can see success in that way, the brain knows you can have it. Don't, for these purposes, actually see yourself in the picture performing the action, because the brain doesn't readily distinguish between imagination and reality. Seeing it through your own eyes, however, as if you are there participating in the action, establishes a much better frame of mind. As an example of how the brain works, close your eyes for a few moments. Relax. Now, with your eyes closed, imagine taking a lemon and placing it on the table in front of you. In your mind's eye, take a sharp knife and slice the lemon in half, and then slice it into quarters. Pick up a piece of the lemon, place it close to your nostrils, and breathe in. Now imagine squeezing the juice into your mouth and swill it around. You can open your eyes now. Is your mouth watering? For most people, this straightforward test will result in precisely that response, a watering mouth. The simple act of imagining this gets your brain to throw your salivary glands into action. In the same way, if you imagine you have achieved your objective already and you can see yourself in the picture doing it, the brain may imagine you already have it, and the motivation will not be so strong. But if you see it through your own eyes, on the outside looking in, so to speak, the brain is more likely to believe it is there for the taking, and you can go for it. Now you have decided what you want, and you have seen it with your own eyes, even if only mentally. The next question to address is, how will you know when you have it? That may sound a slightly odd question, but it is worth thinking about. When you have it, what will you see? When you have it, what will you hear? When you have it, what will you feel? At this stage, your mind is seeking evidence. It needs to create its own map of what to expect, and it will do so by understanding what it needs to see, what it needs to feel, and what it needs to hear. When it understands what you want precisely in those terms, then it will drive your behavior towards it. That behavior will push you towards your goal and enable you to achieve your objective. Now, thinking more about your objective, is it something that is within your personal control? Are you able to control the outcome yourself? Or does the objective involve anyone else? Can you do all that's necessary to reach your desired result? We can, as you know, control our own thinking and our own emotions, but we can't control others in the same way. If you have a life partner, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, I expect you've often wondered how you might like to change their behavior in some way. We've all done it, haven't we? But you can't do it. Only they can change their behaviors. What you can do, however, is change your response to their behaviors. You will need to consider this carefully. What exactly is it that you want to change in them? How will changing your response in a particular way enable them to change their own internal programming so that they no longer feel it necessary to pursue their old behaviors? So, although changing others is directly outside our control, by altering our own responses and therefore perhaps changing their attitude in some way, we are enabled to change them indirectly. In other words, by changing ourselves, we manage to achieve the result we want. In order to achieve a well-formed outcome, we need to be able to initiate the idea, maintain it, and manage it. A sure recipe for failure is to put the outcome in the hands of others. Successful people know where they are going. They have a clear objective in mind. They can see it, feel it, and hear it. They establish the steps they need to secure it, and they follow those steps. They don't say to themselves, "Well, I don't know how to do that," or "I couldn't do that." They ask instead, "At present, I don't know how to do that. What do I need to learn so that I can do it?" They don't see barriers to success. They merely see hurdles to leap. Ask yourselves now, how does my objective fit into the rest of my life? Will it improve one aspect of my life but disturb another? Let us imagine for a moment that you live in Texas. But in order to achieve your ambition, you may need to travel for a couple of years, not only throughout the United States, but also to Europe and the Far East. Have you thought about that? Will it be necessary to place any limitations on your plans? Or do you want to carry on regardless of limitations? Will it affect anyone else in your life? What about your partner, for example? Do you envisage that your partner will be part of your greater vision? Have you included them in that vision? You can see from all this that in order to get what you want, you will need to change your behaviors. But remember that whatever your behaviors are at present, they serve you in some way, or you wouldn't have them. Again, this needs careful thinking about. It may be that those behaviors will not get us where we really want to go. But if we change them without considering how they do serve us in some perhaps very small way, it may be tricky to stick to the new behaviours. In order to illustrate this, let's think about someone who has been overeating for a long time and is now well overweight. They wish to shed some of those excess pounds, so they embark upon a program of diet and exercise. Now, the individual would not have overeaten unless it served her in some way. Perhaps it was comfort eating, or the desire to eat a particular sort of foods, perhaps sweet foods. So before changing your behaviours, consider the secondary gains. In order to maintain your new and desired behaviours, you may need to consider ways of retaining at least the most important of those secondary gains, without holding on to those old, unsuccessful behaviours. Ask yourself, if I accomplish what I want to achieve, what will I lose? Go on to ask these very important questions. When would not achieving my objective be all right? Where would not achieving my objective be all right? With whom would not achieving my objective be all right? In order to achieve my outcome, would I have to give up something I consider to be really important? All these matters need to be weighed in the balance. So consider now if you have the resources to get you where you want to be. For instance, have you ever done this before? If you have, you'll be able to see it happening in your mind, and you'll know exactly where you're going. If not, do you know anyone who has done this before? Alternatively, what do you have now and what do you need to get to your outcome? Now, I don't ask all these questions in order to put you off or to send you in some other direction. They're there to help you to draw at the very outset a well-formed vision of what you want. You will, I'm sure, want to consider not only yourself, but other people who it will affect. And that will include your nearest and dearest, those that you love the most. It may also affect those you work with, friends, or the wider community. Is the gain that you intend to achieve going to be at the expense of another area of your life? You need to evaluate this to decide whether, if it does, is it likely to last? Now at this stage there are 4 more questions you should be asking yourself to see if your objective really fits your desires, and they need your very careful consideration. Number 1, what will happen if you get it? Number 2, what won't happen if you get it? Number 3, what will happen if you don't get it? Lastly, what won't happen if you don't get it? Take a few moments to listen to those questions again and ponder your answers carefully. So I will repeat them. What will happen if you get it? What won't happen if you get it? What will happen if you don't get it? What won't happen if you don't get it? These questions are worth noting and memorizing. Do you consider that your proposed outcome will stand up to each of those questions? Or as you search your mind for the answers, do you experience any internal negative feelings? If you have any doubts, now is the time to adjust the outcome until you can ask each of those questions and experience only positive responses. Now once again, you've been given plenty to think about. And while I have no doubt that your objective is well within your grasp if you tackle it properly, you will come across obstacles on the path ahead. Regard those obstacles not as solid brick walls that reach to the sky, but as modest hurdles to leap, and you will succeed. Everything won't be entirely to your liking all the time. And when you come across those little hurdles, remember what your objective is. As an example, let me tell you, when I went to law school as a mature student in order to qualify as a lawyer, there were certain core subjects in our curriculum that we all had to study in order to gain the qualification. We didn't have a choice about those core subjects. Some of them, such as criminal law, tort, contract and public law, I welcomed and enjoyed. But then there were the others I didn't. Land law, jurisprudence, neither of which I liked at all and found to be quite tedious. I always wanted to be a courtroom lawyer, and the history of freehold land and its finer points just didn't turn me on. To get the qualification I wanted, however, I still had to do them. So how do we get over these frustrating or unfulfilling moments when we come across them? First, treat them as challenges, then link those challenges to your objective. When you realize that this challenge can help you achieve the result you want, you can get inspiration from them. I found with the land law and jurisprudence that I had to put in twice as much work on those subjects as any other single subject. And although neither was top of my popularity chart, and in fact I found them quite wearisome, I did get that the more I learned, the more I got out of it. And although they weren't my best results, I did get decent honours results in the end in each of them. Many years on, I understand no matter how unfulfilling they seem to be, these subjects were very important for a true understanding and practice of the law. Next week, we will talk more about your goals and how to get from where you are now to where you want to be in the future. Until then, be happy and be successful.